Hi guys, it's Mina, and sorry for the horrible lighting. Can you guys see me? Oh yeah, the camera's in focus. And please ignore the little box if you can see it. Anyway, so today in this video I'm going to, sorry, it's just I'm laughing at the little box that's around my face. Okay, I just thought the camera was out of focus, so which is why I tapped the screen. Anyway, it won't go away, so I'm just gonna get started. So these are, this is going to be the top 10 things I hated about chemo. Apparently I can't talk tonight, so I do apologize. I can get a little bit closer. Much better. I think it's much better now. And please ignore the little box by my ear now. Anyway, I'm gonna get started. So these are things I really hated about chemo. So when sorry, I'm distracted. So when I went through chemo, these are just a list of things that I really hated. And I pretty much remember them by heart. And by the way, if you guys are interested in my chemo story, I will link them down below. I will link the story down below. So I'm going to get started. So number one would have to be nausea and vomiting. And I know that's pretty gross, but I'm going to tell you what it was. So the reason when I first started chemo, I thought it was the food I was eating that was making me sick, so I wouldn't eat food for a whole day, which was pretty annoying. Even if I was hungry, I didn't want to eat all day because I thought it was the food I was eating. But it turned out it was my mom and dad were telling me that it was the chemo, so they were trying to get me to eat something, but I honestly thought it was the food I was eating that was making me sick, but it was actually the chemo. So not all the medications were bad. The worst one was the cisplatin. I can't remember what the cisplatin was for. I remember I had a couple ones. There was cisplatin, which is the first one, and that was like the worst one because it always made me nausea. It gave me nauseous, and then I got really bad headaches, and then I would have to puke just to get the pain out. I know it's really gross, so I'm sorry if I'm grossing you guys out. So I bet a lot of you guys have this feeling if you have like a headache and then you want to get rid of the pain, you just throw up just to get rid of the pain. If you've ever had that, please let me know down below. Well, so yeah, so my cisplatin was the worst one because it would make me sick. I would be constantly throwing up. I sometimes would wake my parents up to give me the bucket and stuff. I hated it so much. Another reason I would get nauseous sometimes was because my medications during chemo. Besides the cisplatin, actually one time I accidentally had my phosphorus. Sorry, I thought that was my phone. Anyway, I had my phosphorus before so I had my phosphorus, which was this medication where I had to put a pink powder inside a liquid, like either juice or water. I mostly had it with water, and then I accidentally had Apple Jacks right after I ate it, and I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. And then right after I had my phosphorus, and then when I was in the restroom, I felt woozy, so I went and grabbed the bucket and I started throwing up. And then I remember there was this big pill that made me throw up too, and it was because it would get stuck in my throat, and it was I can't remember the name of this pill, but it was this giant pill that my mom and dad had to cut in half for me, so I was able to swallow it, and then we had to dust it off so none of the dust would get stuck in my throat and I would throw up. And it was like a pill that prevented me from getting a fever. So basically it was just mostly the medications that made me woozy, and throw up. I remember, I think one time I accidentally overate and I needed to get rid of the pain. Number 2 on my list would have to be noisy roommates. Now, I had like really nice roommates. I got along with most of my roommates in the hospital. These are the roommates in the hospital I had, not like roommates I've had so far, but I've had roommates in the hospital, and I got along with most of them, but some of them are kind of noisy, and some of them would cry in pain, and at the same time, first I was annoyed, and then I'd feel bad for them. Actually, I remember one time my mom and I were in the hospital, and we got stuck in the same room with 2 crying babies, and they kept us up all night. And the next day we just slept all day, and I think I mentioned that in my chemo story, I remember when I first started my chemo treatments, I had this one roommate who had just had back surgery, and I was really annoyed because she kept waking me up, and at the same time I felt kind of bad for being annoyed because she was in so much pain and I felt bad for her. So, well, most of my roommates I did get along with, but I've only had ups and downs with 3 roommates. Number 3 on my list would have to be taste bud changes. So when you go through chemo, it has a tendency to change things and kill fast-growing cells, like it kills your hair and your hair falls out. If you guys have experienced what I went through, then you'd understand. And then it changes your taste buds. Like, I didn't like some of my favorite foods. Like, I didn't like my mom's scrambled eggs. And I didn't like, and I love those, and I didn't like strawberries, and strawberries are my main weakness. If you guys watch my top 10 fruits, you know that I love strawberries. And then I didn't like hamburgers, which is weird because I loved hamburgers. And if you guys didn't know, if you guys have been through what I've been through, chemo has a tendency to change things like your hair growth, your fast-growing cells. I remember my teeth got really gross when I went through chemo as well. Well, and I had to brush them all the time just because I wasn't allowed to go to the dentist during chemotherapy. I'm sorry, I can't talk. So yeah, so that's one thing I hated was it taste buds. So there was this weird thing where if I couldn't taste anything, it means I didn't like it. But what's weird was when I went through chemo, I ate a lot because usually when someone goes through chemo, they don't eat as much. Does that make sense? I hope so. Anyway, so that's one thing I hated the most was taste buds. Number 4 on my list would have to be drowsiness. So I think it was my methotrexate, or I can't remember which medication it was, but when I was in the hospital, one of my medications would make me so sleepy. Like I'd sleep probably until like dinner time. Actually, I didn't. I remember one time I woke up and I asked my mom what was for breakfast, and she's all like, "It's time for dinner." And I'm like, "Oh," I mean, I had slept that whole day and I didn't realize it. I usually hate wasting the whole day sleeping, but I guess I was really tired from my chemo. I can't remember which medication it was that made me so sleepy. I think it was the methotrexate. Yeah, it was probably the methotrexate. I'm sorry. Alright, I can't remember which one it was. So yeah, so I'd sleep during the day. I remember one time my dad woke me up when my aunt came to visit. And then one time I slept through my sister's birthday party, and by the time I woke up, they were all having cake. Like, and I know it's rude to sleep at a party, but I was going through chemo. Number 5 on my list would have to be hospital food. I hated the taste of the hospital food, the food they give me at the hospital. It tasted horrible. If you guys have tasted hospital food, then you know what I mean. It tasted like probably like plastic and rubber. It was terrible. Well, I've never tasted rubber or plastic, but to me it tastes, if I did, then it would taste horrible. So yeah, I didn't like the taste of the hospital food. So whenever we went through chemo, whenever I went to the hospital, my mom would have to go shopping for me the day before and get whatever I would eat. And she'd mostly get like healthy foods, which is good because I needed to eat a lot of healthy, and I tried to not eat so much sugar. But on the first day when I went through chemo, my dad would always, whenever my dad came, he'd always come and bring fast food, which is nice because I love fast food, but I don't eat it all the time, and sometimes we'd order pizza. But I remember that one local pizza place, I don't remember the name of it, we had to go and pick up pizza because they didn't deliver anymore. So yeah, when I went through chemo, I'd eat a lot, but I just wouldn't eat the hospital food because I hated the taste of it. It all tasted terrible. Number 6 on my list was this giant pill I had to take. So it was like, I think about this big, and that's pretty big for a pill. So when it's a pill, I don't remember the name of it, but it was a pill that would prevent me from getting a fever during my second dose of methotrexate, because the second dose I get a really bad fever and then I get mouth sores. Wait, was it the second or first? I can't remember which one of those doses. I can't remember, but we had to cut this giant pill in half, Well, my mom gave me all my pills and stuff, so she had to cut it in half so I was able to swallow it. But sometimes we'd forget to dust it off, and some of it would get stuck in my throat, and I would have to puke because it made me sick. It was disgusting. Disgusting, I know. I'm sorry if I'm grossing you guys out so much. But so that's one thing I hated was the giant pill, and it was just a pill to prevent me from getting a fever during my second dose of methotrexate. Sorry. Number 7 on my list would have to be mouth sores. Now, these are like canker sores, but they were worse. So mouth sores would be when your mouth was peeling, like there would be blisters all in your mouth, and it was painful, and I get a sore throat and everything. It was painful. Oh my gosh, I could not eat anything all day, or I couldn't drink water. It was just horrible, and I would get those like during my doxorubin and my second dose of methotrexate, so I would be in so much pain. I remember I'd be crying in pain because I couldn't swallow because my throat was so dry. Right, and I hated that so much. Ouch. Number 8 on my list would have to be not seeing people. Now, I couldn't really see people I couldn't really see my friends at school because my mom and dad took me out of school when I went through my chemo just so I wouldn't get like sick from anybody and stuff, because a lot of people carry colds sometimes and they don't realize it. I had to stay in the house when my counts were low, and my parents wouldn't let anyone in the house if they were sick, or they wouldn't let anyone near me, so they were like so overprotective of me when I went through chemo, which was really good. So they were the best. And I remember one time I was supposed to go out to dinner with my friend, her mom and her little brother, but we had to cancel and do it at the house because my counts were low. My platelets were low, and I couldn't go out because what if somebody was sick? I remember one time, I mentioned this in my chemo video, that I had a friend come over for my 13th birthday party, but my mom and my stepdad had to send her home because she was sick. I remember my dad had to miss my birthday because he got sick from something. I can't remember what it was he got sick from. Anyway. So that was one thing I hated, was not seeing people, especially if they had colds. Number 9 on my list would have to be nosebleeds. Okay, so when I went through chemo, I got a ton of nosebleeds. I don't remember which medication it was, but they were so annoying. Like, they come randomly. Like, I felt like a drop of blood come down my nose and I had a nosebleed. So my mom and I had to put a warm rag on my nose, and then I had to pinch my nose and hold my head back. That was so annoying. I hate bloody noses. Noses, they're no fun whatsoever. I couldn't even blow it out. I had to just pinch my nose. So during chemo, you get a ton of nosebleeds. They are no fun. If you guys have had nosebleeds through chemo, then you understand what I see. Number 10 on my list would have to be low counts. So when my counts were low, I couldn't be around people, and I couldn't be around go out of the house, which is really annoying because I like to get out of the house back then. But since my counts would be low, I wasn't allowed to go out of the house or spend any time with people, which made me so sad. So my mom would have to call the doctors to see how my counts were and stuff. Like, for instance, during my birthday, we had to have it on a weekday because we were going to be stuck in the hospital every weekend in October. So when we had my birthday party, we had one of my friends over, and my mom had to send her home because she was like sneezing and stuff, and it turned out she had allergies and stuff, so my mom didn't think it was worth it, so we had to send her home, and I felt bad because she really wanted to see me. So that's one thing I hated, was low counts, especially if people were sick, because I couldn't see anybody, and I couldn't get out of the house. Okay, so those are my top 10 things I hated about chemo. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry this video is so long, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and sorry about the little box if you can see it. And I'll see you guys in another video soon. Bye!